All right, welcome back to the Buddy Book Club. Thanks always to Pace Car Joe for our intro music. I'm Dylan here with my good buddy Keith to deep dive into some books from past and present. We're a podcast for the common people, you know. We're here to make reading fun again. That's our goal, I think, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the Trump slogan just because we're not political here, but
But like I said, we're here for the common people. I mean, actually, a quick anecdote that I think is applicable here. Keith and I used to work together, and there was a cafeteria of sorts in the office building, and at one point they had a contest for who could make the best sandwich that they were going to adopt at the office, and everyone was coming out with these caramelized onions and Gouda cheese and slices of apple and stuff like that in their sandwiches. And Keith here, he basically made a turkey club. He improved it a little bit.
Fastball down the middle. That's how we do it.
Yeah, put a little bacon on it, but. And he called that, if I remember correctly, he called that sandwich the common man or the everyman or something like that, right?
That's right.
And you know what? At the end of the day, that sandwich won. It wasn't all this highfalutin, arugula with the goat cheese. No, it was just what people wanted. A nice, simple, yet delicious turkey sandwich. And that's what we're trying to bring to the listeners here.
Great analogy.
So I'd say that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I don't know if we have the same winning abilities of that sandwich, but we'll try to get there,
Yeah, well, that's fair. We're a work in progress, like you're saying, and we love to hear from our listener buddies out there, whether it be thoughts on the book we're reading, ideas for the podcast. I mean, even hate mail, send it our way.
Oh yeah.
You can reach us on Twitter at Buddy Book Club, on Instagram at Buddy Book Club Podcast, and you can shoot us an email if you'd like at what are we? Oh, Buddy Book Club Podcast at gmail.com. Now with the pleasantries out of the way, Keith, my maven of murder, what are we discussing today?
We are getting into the second half of The Hunting Party. Last episode we covered chapters 1 through 25. There weren't any spoilers or anything like that. It was just basically our predictions, what we thought was going to happen, our thoughts on the first half. Now we've finished the book. We're going to kind of go over what we think was going to happen here, predictions, and then characters stock up and down versus what we thought of them from the previous episode as well.
Well, before we get into that, we got to tackle the most important subject, which is, what are we drinking today? Because, we like to every episode have a drink associated with the book we're reading, either something we've created on our own or like this book, thanks to an author here in Lucy Foley, who seems to enjoy a good imbibing of her own. She includes a bunch of drinks throughout the story. So we appreciate that. Keeps it easier for us. So this week we're going to be wetting our whistle with either, she talked about some Pouillet fume, I don't know, which is what Katie drinks when she's at the bar alone. The bartender gives it to her, which I respect without her even saying anything, which is actually a dry Sauvignon Blanc produced around the Pouilly-sur-Loire area
Great
of France.
French.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's probably going to be a pass for me. I'm not a big on the white, so we'll move on. There's also, her and Julian do meet up at the bar as well. They get into it for sure. He offers to buy some Hibiki, which is a Japanese whiskey. Supposedly their 17-year-old version is best. So I assume that's what Julian's drinking because he always wants to be the best. That's a $500 bottle of whiskey. And I'm not a huge drinker of the brown stuff, so I'm going to pass on that.
You wait till it gets to about 18 years. Is that right, I believe, Damian?
Yeah. Jesus.
Right. Too much? But I thought that's when it gets ripe, right? No?
At least, allegedly. We're going to go with a classic Jim Beam and Coke, which is what everyone's drinking in their college years. I mean, what's more American than a Jim Beam and Coke? It's also affordable. So I'm going to go with that. Cheers to you. Also, wet your whistle. Side note, it's a super old phrase. It was actually written as early as the 1300s in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. And the mouth was often referred to as the whistle at the time. So it's actually pretty straightforward.
Oh,
You're just wetting your whistle,
We're
get a
here to
little
we're
liquid
here
in
to
your mouth.
teach people a lot of things, and that's a good one. Good little tidbit right there.
Yeah, if that's all you learned from this podcast, then
Yeah.
hey, we love it. Happy to help. So second half of Hunting Party. Let's get into it. I mean, this book was to me pretty much like the Rams Super Bowl of 2019. I mean, we all entered with high expectations, and the first half, there's not a ton going on, but they kept it interesting. You know, it was 3-0 Patriots at the end of the first half. And then the second half, again, not a ton going on, but at the end of the day, the good guys won, and we're mostly glad we watched, or read in this case, I guess. When we start part two, the fun of the games are mostly over. Old resentments and long buried secrets begin to surface within the group. The second half is pretty much centered around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, whereas the first half is kind of a couple days before, sprinkled in with the present. But the group decides to go hunting, which is what you kind of do when you're in the Scottish Highlands. Bloodlust is up, emotions are high. It kind of sets the tone for the second half. People start snapping at each other, but ultimately at the end of the hunt, Emma, I think my favorite character, Emma, she takes down the deer. They have their New Year's Eve supper, followed by a game of truth or dare, a standard game for 30 somethings to play. Everyone continues to binge drink, especially our girl Miranda. We and Miranda find out Katie's pregnant with Julian's baby after a particularly sultry cunnilingus scene in the sauna.
Mhm.
Miranda confides in Emma, only to find out Emma's her stalker. Smash cut to Heather, who's headed up to the old lodge on a whim and finds Ian and the owner have been using the lodge as a front to smuggle coke. Doug comes to the rescue for the damsel in distress, shoots Ian and saves Heather. Meanwhile, back at the lock, Miranda and Emma discuss how being a stalker is like totally not cool. Emma disagrees and does her best Big Show impression by chokeslamming Miranda into the abyss. Emma continues to act rationally and tries to murder Katie, who she, understandably blames for the whole situation. Heather arrives just in time, and although she was a paramedic in a past life, she would have made a great Secret Service agent. She takes a bullet for Katie, and Emma gets hauled off to prison. So, that's pretty much the story. And I'd like to lay out the twists here because, there were a few. So, twist number one is that Giles, my boy, he actually had sex with Miranda.
Yeah, and you
And
you loved Giles, right? From the last half, you said he was the best character. Does that
yeah,
change your opinion of him?
it does change my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, for the better.
I will get to that in the stock up, stock down, but I think I really wanted to know your
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay.
Giles, my boy. Keep it up, brother. Also, Julian has been having an affair with Katie and put a baby in her belly. Emma turned out to be not only the stalker, but also the murderer of Miranda. I guess Miranda being the one who died is a twist, I guess. And
Oh,
unassuming,
spoilers, by the way. I
yeah,
don't know if we mentioned that.
yeah, a little too late.
Okay.
Little too late. And unassuming Ian, the guy who pretty much just,
He didn't
works
even mention his name in the first half.
no, he didn't.
Yeah.
And like rightfully so. We'll get into
Yeah,
that
he
as
wasn't
well.
in it wasn't in it at all. But okay, go
But
on.
unassuming Ian ends up being a drug smuggler along with the owner of the lodge slash estate. Does that cover all the twists?
Yeah, I think that brings it full circle. I think some of these characters just faded into oblivion at the second half of the book. I don't think we even heard from Giles. Was a brief snippet. Samira was gone. Bo and Nick weren't there. The random European couple made an amazing side entry again. So, and then the Strangler, Highland
No,
Strangler.
the Ripper.
Oh, is it Ripper? That was a
Yeah, the
Highland
Ripper.
Ripper. Okay, whatever. He just disappeared too. They were like, it wasn't him. That was it.
Well, we did do an initial podcast last week about the first half of the book, and we made some of our own predictions. We rubbed the crystal ball, but I think it's time to call in KPMG and do a comprehensive audit of our predictions.
Big four, right?
Yeah, what did
Yeah,
we get right, and what did we get wrong?
sure. So I will start off with an audit of myself. First one the big prediction I made was Miranda's bipolar, which I think is still inconclusive. The reason I predicted that was essentially because I didn't think the stalker was real. It seemed too absurd that someone would be doing that, which Emma's character is pretty absurd, but that ended up being incorrect. But Miranda still could be bipolar considering how crazy her mood swings are.
I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I'm not here to kind of paint people like that because I just don't know. I don't even know what
What are you
bipolar
trying to
means.
say? Yeah, I don't know what it means either. I thought that bipolar is that or multiple personality disorder is what I was going for.
Oh, okay. Those are
Yeah.
probably the same thing. Who knows?
Okay. Either way, inconclusive. Definitely could have been still. And maybe it
You watch
wasn't written in
one
the book.
you watch one episode of The Sopranos and he goes to a psychologist and you're like, yeah, no,
Yeah, I know.
I can start diagnosing people.
I'll go to one of yours now. You can probably cover it. But also, by the way, did we need to put a spoilers in the first part? Because I thought I just auditing you. You were fucking spot on. That people are going to read the first part and they'd be like, did D-Man read this beforehand and just
Yeah,
pretend he
well,
didn't know?
when you said that earlier, when you were like, yeah, we didn't have any spoilers in the first part, I was like, I don't know. There's a lot
Yeah.
of spoilers if you just listened to what I said. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess I kind of dug out the fact that Emma was the stalker and she was my number one for being the murderer. So yeah, those both checked out. I called Katie and Julian having sex in
You did.
Ibiza. The only thing that I didn't know was that Ian actually played a part in this at all, and that Katie was pregnant, which I guess there were, her not taking a drink on the train, and there was probably a couple other things in there
You also
that
had
led.
said if this is a rom-com, by the end, Doug and Heather would be hooking up, and that kind of seemed to be what was happening by the end, right? Like the end,
Oh,
they're
they
like,
definitely hooked up at the end
yeah.
for sure.
So you were kind of spot on everything here. So
I actually liked Katie or Heather's line when she was like at the end of the book when she's like, yeah, I'm getting my flat in Edinburgh or whatever. Doug said he's gonna come visit, and I'll have to get a pull-out couch that
or maybe not.
may or may be
Yeah.
used. And the
Who
one
knew,
thing that doesn't pull out, Doug.
Come on, that was too easy. The one thing that I did learn is that, and this is because I'm a psychologist now also, but if you have a ton of problems, mental issues, just get shot, everything gets fixed. Like I did for Heather. She's like, you know what? Now I'm back to normal. I was like, wait, what? A
Or
minute
just
ago,
fall in love.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you fall in love again, then like all of your problems go away.
I think that's
None of these
easier.
problems are going to resurface.
So someone sits on your couch is like, I'm ready to commit suicide. And you're like, just fall in love. It's easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I would
It's
be like,
do you
just get
have a
shot.
girlfriend? Any predictions we got wrong or like dead wrong?
I think the Ian not even mentioning him or the secret shack, we kind of didn't even consider that. That was a little bit hidden in the book. I think
Do
you're
we want to
just
talk about that right now? The Ian thing?
yeah,
Because
it's troubling you. Tell me your issues here.
let me lay down on the couch for you. So I guess my biggest issue was that it didn't matter. Like, who fucking cares the whole cocaine
Right.
backstory line?
No.
Ian's smuggling cocaine with the owner. It has nothing to do with anything. It wasn't even a red herring.
Yeah, it should have been like Giles's idea to come to the cabin, and it was him smuggling. And then you could actually think Giles is a killer or like is involved, all of a sudden. But to make it just some random guy that's not really talked about at all for the first half, and then has a vital role for like 5 minutes, and then it doesn't matter.
I'm with you that someone there should have been involved with the cocaine smuggling somewhat. We'll get into that at the end because I do have an idea about that if we were to rewrite the ending. But let's talk a little bit about characters because we got we have our main base of characters, which is it's kind of like a closed room murder mystery in that they're all locked up pretty much in this lodge and one of them's a murderer. So there's no real ancillary characters. We have our clean set of characters. Let's discuss them in a stock up, stock down segment. So Miranda, Julian, stock up, stock down. What do you say?
So I'll start with Miranda. I mean, she ended up being who we thought she was. We thought she was going to be dead. Here's what I will say about her is that getting choked out by a weaker Emma after like a nice nap, a nice boot and recoup, and getting some angry adrenaline pumped into you after finding out your husband's cheating on you, you can't let that happen. A smaller Emma, you just cannot. So it's really bad luck. So just sock way down there. Another thing I want to mention about her is that Miranda is like the guy at the bar, the big guy at the bar that says like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Tell every single character. She's like, Giles, yeah, I'll tell your wife that you cheated with me. Emma, you're pathetic. You're disgusting. I can't believe you're a stalker. To Katie, to Julie, to all these people, she's basically just like, what are you going to do about it? And then Emma's finally like, oh, I'll choke you out and kill you. And so, yeah, that was pretty tough.
Stock way up for me. Way up.
Really?
To the moon. To the moon.
Wouldn't you say that she's currently out of business, filing Chapter 7? I know.
Yeah.
She's no longer.
Her company is no longer traded.
Okay.
But it was a shot to the moon. Then the SEC came in and shut it down, a la Jordan Belfort. She's torching bridges left and right in the second half of this book. And who doesn't love watching someone fall from grace? I mean, let's go through them. Mark, during the Truth or Dare game, she assaults Mark, throws a champagne bottle down his throat and makes him chug the entire thing, which as anytime anyone's ever tried to chug champagne, it just sprays all over you. I mean, they go into like vivid detail about his eyes bulging out of his head and stuff like that. I mean, even James Dean would blush at an assault like this. All right. Next up, Bo, who seems to be just a good guy. She's wasted. He goes and gets her some water because he's like, hey, you're drunk. You should have some water. Super nice thing to do. What a great friend. And after she has her water, she calls him a junkie, like to his face. She's like, you're pretty cool for a junkie. It's like, fuck. And then,
this is stock all up. I'm still.
This is stock up. Yeah. She's burning bridges.
You're okay. Like, I got it.
It's stock up in terms of like watching real TV with Ahmad Rashad, it's just watching.
I don't know that reference, but totally.
You never watched Real TV? Oh,
no.
Great show. It was like the original 4chan or something like that, just like cars crashing and shit like that, I mean, Katie gets it the worst, I think. She refers to Katie's breasts as fried eggs. I mean, that's an absolute savage diss. There's no recovery from that.
The worst is Miranda was like, I'm not even upset that you cheated on me. It's that you cheated on me with her. Oh, like gross. That's a tough thing to hear.
She has fried egg nipples. That's fucked up to say to somebody. So talk about burning her. But this is your best friend. Jesus Christ.
Her best friend's cheating on her, but.
Oh, well, shit happens. Miranda, this is the dissenting opinion, is that Miranda said she hadn't cried since college, which was like 10 years ago. And it was because she didn't get top honors and Katie did. Anyone that hasn't cried in the last 10 years, something wrong with that. I cried 2 days ago. It's
go on. Is this are we doing a psychology chair sit down right now?
No,
what was it over? Movie?
Yeah. In and of itself on Hulu. Jesus Christ. If you don't, I mean, that's what I would do to see if someone was psychotic is I'd ask them to watch that. And if they had no emotional response, I'd be like, all right, you're going to the gulag. But yeah, it's just like crazy. I mean, she's been having trouble having a kid. She has trouble with her relationships. She has trouble with her job. Like none of that elicited any sort of emotional response that led you enough that you could weep even for a moment. Also, Miranda, the dissenting opinion is Miranda's memory. Do we want to talk about this right now?
Let's. I mean, we've kind of gone in on Miranda. Let's. This doesn't make any sense.
So for me, Emma's her stalker, as we had discussed, and as everyone knows now that has read the book. But her and Emma, I was going to think like, oh, Emma was like saw her at a party or something like that, which is true. But additionally, her and Emma got drinks, just the two of them. Went out dancing, just the two of them, and she doesn't remember this person. I mean, this is a whole nother level of like self-indulgence that like you don't even see other people. Is that the case? Like, how do you not remember? You spent a day with this person. Is that possible? I don't understand.
I was offended most by the fact that she said, I'm good with faces. First off, I'm good with faces.
Right.
If you had to say, Keith,
I'm good with faces.
What is your best attribute? I say, I'm good with faces. That's it. I don't have anything. That's number one. And that's it. I don't have anything other positive traits, really. So the fact that she's using this, it's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The fact that also she uses that as I remember this photo that I took with this person 10 years prior. but she doesn't remember hanging out with her for the 10 years when she was like literally right in front of her face this whole time and stalking her. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe I guess because she's vain and she just looks at her photos. That's the only thing I can think of. But early in the book, she also says, I look at photos and I don't remember any of these people's faces. So which one is it?
Yeah. Pick your side.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally get it if Miranda, and I think this is a total human thing to do, is like if you look at photos, the first person you look at is yourself and you say like, all right, I look decent there. That's not crazy, but
Yeah.
to immediately upon realizing that Emma is her stalker, to be like, wait, there was that photo from college, that one photo from 10 years ago that I
Yeah.
remember. There's 20 people in this photo, but I remember this little person in the back. Like, that's you. It wasn't like, wait, didn't we get drinks together? Didn't we go dancing together? What? No, none of that. Actually, this is where the cheers to Jim Beam and Coke. That's what her and Emma drink when they're out dancing together.
Oh.
So yeah, that's my Miranda. Stock's still up though. Stock is still up for me.
I'm not really sure how the stock market works with you, but okay.
It was a fall from grace, but I'm giving her positives because it was really the most entertaining part of the book for me. What about Julian?
Yeah, I'll touch on Julian just quickly. I would say it takes a lot of balls to have sex in a sauna right next to everyone. But those balls are gonna be low and they're gonna be hanging and they're gonna be sweaty. So, and he's gonna need a lot of water in there. But so it takes a lot of effort. That'd be tough to do, right?
I don't think they had sex in the sauna. It was a cunnilingus party.
They're about to.
It was a foreplay, if you will.
Yeah, but then he was like a huge bitch after. Stock down. I just didn't like his attitude after.
I'm going to agree with you. Stock down, way down for me, plummeting. He does the slimy move and tries to play both women.
Yeah.
And
we're not about that here.
We're not about that.
No,
we
never.
are not about that.
Yeah.
If you're going to play women, play one. You can't play two. It's too hard. I mean, he
really
tries
effort for you. That's more of what it is.
You just don't have enough in you.
Yeah.
He tries to play Katie and then he tries to play Miranda. To Miranda, he said, oh, Katie came on to me. She was so relentless. And then he goes back to Katie and he's like, Miranda's crazy. I just want to be with you. Also, more importantly, maybe he invents a weird nickname for Katie. It's like Katie did.
Oh, I didn't understand what was going on with that.
I think it was just his nickname. So like Miranda's nickname is Amanda, which makes sense because her nickname's Miranda. Katie did. It doesn't even roll off the tongue. Like at least KT or like KT, like anything. Katie did, trash. Julian, stock way down.
Yep, for sure.
Let's go to our favorite couple here, Samira and Giles. Giles? Yeah,
it's Giles. Okay,
it's definitely Giles.
I don't even want to touch on Samira because she didn't even come up at all. She's been down. She was already bankrupted way back, and then Giles, that he basically wasn't part of the story other than that one little quick thing to make you rethink it. But what'd you have on them?
I knew Simon Pegg, aka Giles, would never. He doesn't have a murdering bone in his body. He's just a good dad. For me, his stock is up. It's flying. Because
I don't understand your stocks evaluation still here, but okay.
Well, his stock is up because he hooked up with Miranda at her peak in college. He got her at her physical peak and is technically in the clear because it was before him and Samira got together. So even if it all did come out, like obviously his wife would be kind of pissed because A, he kept it from her, and B, it's like a hotter chick that he was hooking up with, which is like obviously going to bother someone. But at the end of the day, she can't, do anything about it. It was before they were together. Like,
it was? Okay. That makes more sense.
It was like their freshman year or when they were freshers. And so he has the ability to, be a single guy and do single things, AKA hook up with tens, which is what he did.
Yeah, and you're right. That I'm coming back around. We're the stock's back going up now for me.
Yeah. And additionally, we're going to assume that because it was right before him and Samira got together, that this is the last woman he hooked up with before his wife. Now you're not hooking up with any other women. So the last woman you hooked up with before your wife was a 10. Good for you, bro.
Yeah, that's how you go out. That's a good
call.
On
you. Yeah. So he went out on top. Good for him. And I agree with the Samira call. Her stock is just whatever. I don't even think it's traded, but she gets to have her kid and she's happy. She doesn't have to pay attention to these horrible friends anymore, and she can just enjoy her child. So, that's probably a good thing for her.
Mhm.
What about Emma and Mark? Probably our most dour couple here.
Yeah, this is Google and Apple right here. These are both way, way, way up. We got Emma, who comes out hot right in the beginning of after chapter 25, after we started reading, kills a deer, gets the blood smeared on her face, which is fucking awesome. Then chokes out her best friend, she was pissing everyone off, Miranda. Shows she's not a little bitch. Then she's like, you know what? And I'm gonna go kill this Katie chick because that's just being loyal. And then only gets 4 years to prison, right? It was only 4 years at a woman's prison. That's nothing. That's a
Yeah,
great weekend, if anything. That's a good story you tell people after. And
I'm with you.
then
Stock up. I did have the note that she gets 4 years in jail, not only for murdering someone, but also for shooting someone else who is
yeah,
not. It's not discussed in the trial. I think they just decided, we're going after this
yeah, that
murder
seems
one,
that
and
seems
and
weird.
we're gonna throw out this whole shooting of the other
Yeah.
person situation. So
Attempted
she
murder is not
dolls
a
it
thing
up.
in the UK, I'm pretty sure. I think that's if you don't kill someone, that's just a tough weekend. That's all it is, you know?
Yeah, and to be fair for Emma here, I don't even think she was that crazy. I didn't think she was that crazy throughout the whole time. I was like, all right, like I get it. You see this other girl, you're kind of a loser and mousy, and you want to be this other girl, so you emulate them. You wear the same clothes as them, you put on the same lipstick, the same makeup, you kind of do the same things as them. It's high school stuff, but it's stuff that we're all kind of familiar with. If there's a get popular guy at school,
Yeah.
you'd be like, hey, like let me try if I can act with his swagger or something like that.
Yeah.
So I get that part until she told the story of how she took up cooking, which was basically that Miranda didn't cook and couldn't cook, but liked to eat good food. So Emma decided to learn how to cook and make delicious food on their floor in college in the hopes that Miranda would walk by and smell the food and like ask her what was cooking. That's psycho stuff. That's crazy train. So up until that point, I was like, yeah, all right, she's not too bad. And then there, I was kind of like, yeah, maybe she is a little nuts. What about
For
Mark?
Mark, Ice just said he didn't beat anyone up and he upgraded to a hotter, less psychotic girlfriend. Stock up. I mean, that's just a great weekend also. You realize you didn't end up with Emma, who's kind of an insane person, and you just upgrade right away. Like what's the issue here?
Right. So at the end of the book, they say that he gets a new girlfriend who looks like Miranda, but probably isn't a murderer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
win-win for everyone.
I think that's fair. I think it's a fair assessment. I valued the stock a little bit differently. I have a stock down for him. I don't really like the price to earning ratio.
The
He's
dividends, though. He's paying out dividends here on this one.
I mean, he's exposed as the guy who passes out at parties and snores. We all know that guy who drinks a bunch, goes to a party, and then you end up passed out on the couch. If these guys decided to bring Sharpies with them to Scotland, he would have had the
Mm.
mustache. It wouldn't have been good for him. It's not a good look being the guy who passes out on the couch after drinking.
It's either that or he's assaulting people. So I don't know which one we want there.
Either way is a bad hang. Stock down. Stock down
Yeah,
for
but
Mark.
that was already evaluated in my prior stock assessment. So
That's
that's the
fair.
baseline.
What about our girl Katie?
Yeah, Katie stock way down. Again, another almost like teetering on bankrupt Enron type situation here. So she gets pregnant, finds out about that, then just kind of carries on like nothing's happening, whatever. Then she gets bullied. She's like, Miranda's so mean. Miranda's so mean, just complaining, treating her like a bitch the whole time, even though she's doing the worst thing ever, cheating with her husband. Then they play the truth or dare game, and Miranda's like, go jump in the water, which if you didn't want to do it, don't do it. Like no one's going to be like, wow, you didn't do a truth or dare. You're lower. It's like, who gives a shit? And her justification
Mhm.
for doing it was, well, I'm going to show Miranda. Like, what? What? How does that's the opposite of showing her. That's literally getting bullied and then you doing what the bully said to do. You really showed her. I mean, it's crazy talk. And then
Yeah.
also she has a baby, right? And she's jumping into, I don't know how babies work, but doesn't that potentially kill the baby? I mean, that's dark, but maybe Lucy Foley's onto this. She's like, hey, kids. So here we go. Too dark?
I don't know about the baby thing. I think plunging into cold water is probably fine. But I do agree with you on the, going along with the truth or dare thing. It'd be like Will Ferrell and Step Brothers being like, "Oh yeah, you guys want to make fun of me? Like, all right, I'm gonna eat this white dog shit. Like, yeah, watch, I'm gonna eat it." It's like, now you're just a fucking weirdo. She said Miranda, quote unquote, makes her jump in the lock. She didn't. She's a high powered lawyer,
Right.
and then gets pouty because no one made you do anything. We're on the same page. Like we're on the same frequency here.
Yeah.
We're adults. Just don't do it. No, I'm good. Simple as that. Lastly, and most importantly, there's no recovery from someone saying that you have fried eggs for breasts. All right. Stock way down. Bo and Nick, what do we think about them?
I just wrote who ? And that was it. So I don't even want to touch them. I don't care. They didn't add anything to anything.
Yeah. Well, I think Bo, good guy. He comes across as a good guy. He helps Miranda out in that drinking situation, and he can drink while also being an addict, which seems counterintuitive because it is. But hey, if he can do it, good for him. And he luckily doesn't find the stockpile of hidden cocaine, which undoubtedly would have caused a relapse for him. That's an open-faced cocaine buffet. And he doesn't find it, so he then can live the rest of his life. So that's a win for him. And Nick, he hates Miranda, and she's dead, and he's probably all right with that. So they move to the States. Overall, stock up, steady rise. This is a long-term blue chip stock. It's a long hold. It's a long hold.
Yeah, that's one of those I didn't see coming, but okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Let's get into the non-friends in Heather and Doug, starting with Heather. What do you think about Heather?
Again, I think I already touched on this, but this is a case of from now on, if you're having a tough life, things are going down, just get shot, fixes everything. That's a big stock up. Everything's back to normal for her life somehow after taking a bullet. Also, why is she taking the bullet? What?
Because I told you she's a paramedic and she wants to help people.
Let her get shot, then help him. Wouldn't that make more sense? That's like the medic in like World War II getting killed. Anything you want the medic safe so you can save all the other people because everyone else doesn't know medical shit.
Katie's about to get shot probably in like the heart because they say don't aim for the head. So she's about to get shot in the heart. And instead, Heather jumps in and gets a gut shot. Obviously pretty dangerous. Tony Soprano had a gut shot. And he luckily survives. But Heather did the same. She said, this woman's going to die. There's a certain kind of person that likes to jump in the way of fire. And I also think that's what Doug loves about her. They share that in common. Also, that scene moved really slowly in that Emma's about to shoot Katie. Heather is up the hill a little bit. It's been snowing for days. So there's like 3 feet of snow on the ground and somehow sprints to take this bullet.
She's been out there for a while. She's swimming in the frozen ponds. She's ready to go. I don't question that.
She's become a world champion snow sprinter.
Yeah.
And finds love at the end. So stock up for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And Doug?
Yeah. So Doug, we learned obviously we knew he had a dark past. We found out that he blacks out and then just starts violently screaming at times and does random shit. He doesn't know what's happening. He'll just be outside, like screaming like a fox that's being murdered. Yet Heather is still way into him. I think Tom Hardy comparison I put last episode might not even be fitting. It's got to be someone better looking somehow because this dude must be just the most desirable person of all time. If you can do those things, then chicks still will be into you, right?
You know what? You are right. And he is better looking and he is more desirable. Let me set this scene for you. Doug went to war, came back, got into a bar brawl, and did hard time, aka community service, for his actions. Did we miscast him? Is he not Cameron Poe from Con Air? I said, put the bunny back in the box. He's Nick Cage. We miscast him. It's Nick Cage, a way better looking guy than Michael Fassbender,
so much more
than Tom Hardy.
Yeah. When you're right, you're right. Sometimes you got to put your hand up and say, that was my mistake and, own up to it.
It's literally the Cameron Poe story. I swear Lucy Foley was sitting there and like trying to figure out how she's going to round up Doug's backstory. And Con Air was on TNT. And she was like, oh my God, this stringy haired, half balding man is Doug. Love it. Give him a wife beater. My man. Doug stock way up, way up. I'd like to discuss the last two in Ian and the Strangler. So I think these guys are kind of tied together in that they were briefly discussed throughout the book and then had some little effect at the end. So I'll just go for Ian. Flat stock here, the IPO just got released and there's no action. He also survives getting shot, so good for him.
There's a
And
huge positive for that, right? Because his life's going to turn around now. Everything's going to be
yeah,
fine.
I mean, and he for sure gets a plea deal for his testimony against the boss. So he's probably out of jail in a couple of years, loses the money he made, but at the end of the day, he's all right.
Yeah.
So it is what it is for Ian. Before we get into any sort of listener email, what are your thoughts on how this book ended?
I think we've kind of alluded to it, but a little bit unsatisfactory. I do have a way to fix this without really changing that much, but I think making it much more satisfying. Can I indulge?
Please.
Okay. Everything stays the same pretty much up until Heather going to the secret lodge there, finds Ian there. Difference here being is that Ian is big time drugged up. So he's up on that yayo all day, every day. And so he gets shot, but the shot in this case is actually going to end up being lethal. And he's all fucked up. They're like, who is it? Who is the killer? And he's like, it's this fucking big shadowy dude. And we kind of see in the mind of Ian, and he's thinking it's this like terror in the night, right? This big fucking thing. So they immediately think, okay, he's dead, but now he at least told us that it's one of the two guys, Mark or Julian, right? So they go question Julian. He's accounted for. He was trying to get back into the Katie situation, right? So he's accounted for. But now they go to Mark's room, and Mark's there. And Mark obviously has this fucking short temper, right? So he gets all hot and bothered, and he just found out that the love of his life, Miranda, just died. So he's fucking off the rails, right? Getting all pissed, getting all pissy. Them even bringing this up. They stumble upon the stalker cabinet of all of his shit that he said. And they're like, oh, so what's all this shit? Even though we know this is Emma's, right? And so now it's almost set in stone that it is Mark. So he sees the writing on the wall and he starts fighting right away because that's his nature. Doug then freaks out and starts fighting back. Heather loves Doug. So obviously shoots and saves Doug. Mark dies. Beautiful, perfect ending, right?
That's not bad.
However, it is still Emma. It is still Emma.
However,
the last chapter is literally through Emma's mind and being like, yeah, I choked that bitch. She's dead. And now she's dating Julian and she's making her call her M, like Emma, for Miranda. And she's basically become Miranda. Dun, dun, dun. That is how you end it, kid. And you wouldn't know that as the reader until that last chapter when she's like, yeah, it was me.
I love it. I'm a fan. I think it ends way better.
You don't have to change it very much, right? That's like pretty much the same story, but like with everything laid out.
I had a Quentin Tarantino-esque ending.
Okay.
So I was going for more of that. Bo might have, even though he was off the sauce, he was still involved. He was a connect in the drug market, and that's how he was making his money. So this Icelandic trip, he had previously, he just put the bug in Emma's ear that like, hey, check out this place in Scotland. But Bo is actually setting it up for a huge New Year's drug deal. So the drugs are coming in from Iceland, and the Icelandic couple is the ones that are ferrying them in from Iceland. So they bring the drugs to Scotland. Bo's kind of going to be, he's bringing the money up and he's the intermediary, him with Ian, right? And, Doug figures out what the heck is going on in that the drugs are coming up there. Doesn't necessarily know Bo's the bad guy, but knows that there's more going on here. He's like, yo, the Icelandic couple, they're in on it. Ian's in on it. Tells all the people down there, like, yo, we gotta go help Heather, who's probably a prisoner at this point. Unlocks the locker, hands everyone a rifle, and is like, we got to get this shit going down. Doesn't know that Bo is actually in on it. So big shootout, Icelandic couple, Ian, Doug leading the charge. These other people have learned from him after their hunting situation. He sets them up all in strategic places to like do the fireworks, just shit going off all over the place.
Grenades.
Yeah.
M16s all of a sudden pulled out.
A lot of people are dead all over the place.
Yeah, of course.
Doug needs Bo's help right at the end. Bo turns on him, boom, kills him.
But what does he say
Julian's,
beforehand? It was you. It was always you.
yeah, something like that. I love it. I love it. Or like, he's like, Bo, I need your help doing this. And Bo's just like, I'd rather not. And then shoots
But he has a British
him.
accent the whole time, not American all of a sudden.
Oh, very Den of Thieves. Very Den of Thieves. And the only ones left, Julian's been clipped, but he's alive. Emma, because she's the sharpshooter, she's still good. Bo takes Doug out. Emma takes Bo out. Just her and Julian. The cops come just like they were before, but now Emma's scot-free because there's no witnesses. No
She's
one
still a
knows
stalker.
anything.
She
Still
already still killed.
And then it ties into yours.
Yeah.
Where now
we like
Emma
the person
is like
that's
the savior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emma's the
getting away,
savior of the whole thing. She gets away, and her and Julian get away, and they do that whole, now they're together. Her nickname's M or whatever. Boom. They're the only two that survive.
I love it. I think we just made the book way better, both of us. So basically authors now. So that's cool.
Asking for a friend.
Yes.
What do you got there?
Yeah. So this isn't for me. These are definitely not for me. When Katie hooks up with Julian, they do it outside, and Katie, as a girl, says, I came embarrassingly quick.
Yeah.
Is that a thing for girls? What? Is that,
so you're
not me asking. I know, but asking for a friend.
So you're saying when they hook up in the stairwell of her apartment?
Yeah. Why would you be embarrassed as a girl about that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the best thing ever for a guy? No.
I mean, I don't know. I've never pleased someone to that degree, but so I think that.
Oh, I was asking what coming means.
I think that'd be a pat on the back, but maybe she did her best guy impression and just kind of like sloughed off afterwards. She was like, all right, I'm done. Like, see ya. And she went into her apartment and just like left Julian standing there pitching a tent, So
I don't think that's what happened, but okay.
No, yeah, I don't know about the embarrassingly quick. I wouldn't be embarrassed. So hey, Katie, if you're out there, nothing to be embarrassed about. You really liked it. It was a passionate exchange. Good for you. If we could all have that, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, and then cooking for others.
Yes.
You had mentioned that killers don't cook for other people. Are you ready to admit that you are a killer now?
Wow, really hard-hitting questions here, asking for a friend. No, I am not a killer. I mean, I'm a killer of hatred. That's about it. No, I mean, hey, let's be serious. We set the whole Emma thing up with cooking. People that cook for others aren't killers, but we also set the scene that the reason why Emma cooks for others is because she's a psychopath who decided to start cooking so that hopefully the smells would waft down the hall and Miranda would float over to her dorm room like Pepe Le Pew. It just didn't make any sense. But I also think that Emma has a right to murder everyone. Personally, the dinner scene was absurd. Emma subbed in venison for her beef Wellington because, hey, it's hyper-local food. The hyper-local food movement would be all for this. It's a great idea. She spends days thinking about selecting the menu and then, on top of that, actually cooking it just to see Miranda like pick off the pastry from the Wellington. And Katie says, as I prod it with my fork, a little blood stream seeps out. And so that makes her not eat it. Katie, it's not blood. It's myoglobin. It's a completely normal and safe protein that is in meat. And then to just push the food aside, no one thanks Emma for the meal. No one thanks Emma for her effort. She's going around pouring drinks for everyone instead of enjoying the meal that she spent all day creating. And no one even acknowledges her hardship.
Is to show that you're not a killer. I would literally murder all those people.
Yeah. So I think because of that, all of them deserve to die. They're lucky that Miranda was the only one. And I rest my case.
Okay, then.
You've got mail.
This is from Fred from Norfolk,
Freddie.
Virginia. Oh, yeah. Fellow buddies. I like that. D-Man and Keith, loving the pod. I also think you guys sound really attractive. That's a common thread. It's weird. What are your thoughts on this? I would love to see a side book / movie / TV show made about the drug smuggling, outdoor sex having, heart eating Icelandic couple. Do you think that is plausible? Thanks, Fred. Appreciate the question there. Yeah. So first off, the Icelandic couple is the Scranton Stranglers, right? We're on board with that, or the Reapers, as you said. What are they? What'd you call them?
The Ripper.
Ripper. Same difference. Yeah.
We already
Reaper
talked
sound
about
better.
this. It's based off of Jack the Ripper
Yeah.
and the Westminster Ripper, or whatever the guy was in England. But I do think it's interesting that they would be the Ripper. I think that's because, they packed light, they were kind of in and out, they had their whole thing going. I think that's an interesting idea that they could be the Highland Ripper, considering that they were ready to kind of camp and move on. And we know that these murders had occurred across Scotland. I don't think it was discussed whether or not they were involved in the cocaine smuggling.
Yeah, they were, weren't they? Weren't they the ones that brought it in from Iceland?
That wasn't clear, but I think it's safe to assume that the only Icelandic things we talk about are this random Icelandic couple and, this cocaine coming in. I think it's fair that we can assume that they were involved in it somewhat. But maybe a mini series, a mini series about smuggling and murder from this sex craving Icelandic couple. I wouldn't hate that. No, yeah. Fred, I think you're onto something here. I know this book did get signed to a TV series by Seesaw Films. Oh,
didn't know that.
Yeah, if they decide to go with maybe a longer format, I think they can dive into some of these side stories, and I think that Icelandic couple would be probably the most compelling one. So brings up an interesting point. I'll be thinking about this. It's probably actually the only thing I'll be thinking about this book after actually reading this book.
I mean, I fell in love with them when Emma kills the deer and then goes over to get it. I don't even remember what it was, like butchered or bled out or cut or whatever. And she, the Icelandic couple's just there and they're like, let us have the heart. And she's like, what? They're like, yeah, give us the heart. I stopped that and started laughing. I thought that was hilarious. So they eat the heart, just it, which is awesome.
I'm a big fan of the Alaskan shows, the shows about people living on the range in Alaska. And anytime they kill a bear, you do have to hang the meat. The meat has to age a little bit.
Yeah.
And you also have to bleed it. So, but they always eat the heart first, fresh off the kill.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, that's kind of a big thing in this bear killing. And I think it's also with other stuff too. And deer would make sense. You'd want that heart fresh. And supposedly heart's delicious. I haven't had it myself, but it makes sense. It's just, one giant pumping muscle. And it also has this idea of like, you're taking a piece back from that animal after killing it. And it also has an idea of respecting the animal, and that, you're going to eat all of it, and you're going to start with the heart. So I like that scene as well. I didn't laugh as much. I almost kind of was jealous that they were getting to enjoy that. Additionally, them having sex in the snow outdoors. I mean, I don't know how much of an exhibitionist you are, but that's sounds interesting. I was mostly mad that they weren't involved in the second half of the book at all. That was
other than the heart eating, which was awesome.
Other than the heart eating, it was like, why are they hanging out in like the place you hang dead animals?
Exactly. That's why I need to follow these people around. I don't know what's going on with them, but they're awesome.
And there's like gunshots going on, and like they're just not addressed anymore. Like, I guess if they were involved in the cocaine smuggling, they just got out of Dodge, but it just seemed a little weird to me.
And to wrap up what we were talking about earlier and kind of the traditions with hunting, and I thought it was interesting with the blood thing on Emma's face. That actually is a ritual. It's called blooding, where you smear, it's a social ritual that initiates newcomers to hunting ranks, is believed to be started in the 16th century by English fox hunters, considered a rite of passage. And there's a number of other ones, such as horn blowing, which is basically to alert other people that you've killed someone. The last bite.
They've killed someone or something?
No. I think it's for dogs and stuff. So like if you're hunting certain things, you blow the horn and then they alert and like, oh, I can go pick something up or something.
That's not what they did in Fox and the Hound. I'll tell you that.
The last bite is placing a twig in a deer's mouth as like a artistic or last rite of passage for the deer.
Last meal.
Pretty much. And then there's also a tradition where you eat a small slice of the raw liver from the first kill, which is that's that's something. And then the Native American tradition was sprinkling tobacco on the animal, as they thought tobacco was sacred, and it was like a way to like bring it back to the earth or something.
Wait,
So
it's not sacred?
yeah, wacky tobacco, but
All of
yeah,
this I love. I love hunting traditions. I mean,
yeah.
I've never killed anything that was worth eating myself, but hey, I think there's something to that. I think people should probably kill more of the things they eat, and all these traditions sound pretty awesome. And I love Native American stuff. If we want to do a book, I don't know if you've read Empire of the Summer Moon,
That
Quona
sounds made up,
Parker.
but okay.
Yeah, it's a great book about Native Americans and whatnot. True story. But yeah, I love that stuff. So hey, I dig it all. What did you love and hate about this book?
That was the love. I just covered that, and then I hated the good with faces things. Those are my two big things. So I talked about both of them. So did you have anything on
Mhm.
your list that you haven't covered?
For love, I had the setting itself. I thought it was awesome, just
Yeah.
like the isolation, the cold, the wet, the harsh climate,
Hmm.
and then these yuppies deciding to put themselves in it, without even the right boots and stuff like that, the right coats. I think it also like brings the beast out in you. It's a bit like The Shining in that aspect, and it definitely played a part in this book as like these friends who thought everything was cool between them. These old issues start coming out, and these dark, the darkness within them comes to the
Hmm.
forefront. So I like that a lot. That's pretty much all I had for love. Other hates, Truth or Dare at 30. I mean, we talked about this a little bit, but like at 30, it's not that interesting. Truth or Dare is good up until you're like 14, because the whole point of Truth or Dare is to like learn something about the girls. If you're a guy,
Yeah, yeah,
who do you like? And then you parlay that into a dare for you to kiss that person. Like
right.
that's the whole
Yeah,
point. This is how
that's
you
true.
get your first kiss. I got my first kiss in a game of Truth or Dare, and that's how you do it. It's the age
Wow.
13, 14. Call it at that.
Yeah, I agree. And especially if you know these people, what could they possibly not know truth wise? I mean, obviously
Yeah,
they're
and also
wrestling
who
out, but
cares? I
yeah,
just don't care.
that also is true. Yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point.
Other hates, we've talked about Icelandic people disappearing, the Highland Ripper not having anything to do with it, the entire cocaine plot. I mean, it being manufactured in Iceland just doesn't make any sense.
No.
But coca leaves are pretty much come from, I mean, I think it's like 90% or something crazy, like comes from 3 countries in South America. So are we assuming that they shipped raw coca leaves to
Yeah.
Iceland?
Wait,
And
was
if
it? Do
not,
we know it was Coke, by the way? I thought it could have been. Isn't Molly like ground up something that's made in a lab, or I could just be way off? I'm very ignorant.
nice way to pretend. Smart, smart,
I
very
mean, we
smart.
already know you're a killer, so you can get facing drug
Yeah.
charges here too, so it's fine.
I mean, MDMA or Molly is probably made in a lab.
Okay,
So
that's what I thought it might be.
it was Coke though, I thought, but maybe,
Okay,
hey, if it was a party drug,
that's why these Icelandic people are fucking ready to go all
then
the time.
yeah, I guess it's possible. If that was the case, then yes, it could be manufactured in a lab in Iceland. It's just the whole thing of it like being run through this estate in Scotland. It didn't make a
Didn't make
ton of
any
sense.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And then probably my biggest gripe was the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi at the lodge made no sense. So if we're assuming this place has just like I mean, I've stayed at hostels in Vermont when you're going skiing,
Hmm.
and they have really crappy Wi-Fi because it's like 5 doors away in the office. This Wi-Fi, if it was being run from the lodge, Miranda was trying to access it from her bunk, which is her bunkhouse, which is not close to the lodge, and she's scrolling through Facebook to find pictures from 10 years ago. I mean, they kind of put in there, they're like, oh, not all of the pictures were loading. Hun, none of those pictures are loading. What are you talking about? You're just looking at blank screens. But like, I'm just picturing her with Emma sitting in this room, and it's like 10 minutes as she's scrolling through Facebook. She's like, hold on 1 second. I'll be right there. Hold
Yeah,
on. I'm
someone
almost there.
someone that's as vain as her too has like 4,000 pictures of it,
Yeah,
for sure,
exactly.
right?
And
Yeah.
then it was over 10 years ago. So also by the time you get there, it's going to be a super grainy photo because it's not fully going to load. It didn't make much sense that they couldn't get any service or whatever, but oh my God, thank God Julian told them to turn the Wi-Fi on so that I could access this Facebook photo.
I
From
like how you're so
MySpace
petty
photo.
with certain things.
It just didn't make any sense. To me.
I
So
agree.
that
I
was
agree.
that was my big grip. On that, would you recommend this book to a friend?
I would for a beach book, yes. So at the end of the day, I was still entertained. I know it. We had a lot of issues with it. I just like this type of book. I think I would recommend the audiobook. It's like a play. You understand who the people are. It's very easy and very vividly you can see these people. You know, when you're kind of listening or reading to a book and you just or have a movie in your head just going, that's what it was for me. There was no point where I was like thinking like, oh, I'm reading here, or I'm listening here, which happens a lot with me for certain books. And so I just like this format. And I would definitely recommend the guest list. I think that's a much better book than this one is. Also by Lisa Foley. So if I had to say, if someone was like, hey, I'm going to the beach, what would I pick up? What should I pick up? I would 100% recommend the guest list. If someone said, should I read this book? I would say, if you like the guest looks, but just know it's not going to be as good.
I think that's totally fair. And I think The Guest List, which is her New York Times bestseller, I haven't read it. You have. But I think that probably ties in more to like what you're looking for in terms of a beach read. I
Yeah.
did find myself at points doing the thing when you're actually reading a book that you look back at the clock and you're like, oh, it's been an hour and a half. So
Oh,
like,
that's good. Yeah.
I thought I was reading for 30 minutes. I read for an hour and a half. So it was compelling in that sense. But I'm not a huge fan of this book. I mean, it's not a bad book, like I said, but I found it to be pretty predictable. And with a book like this, you're looking for those big twists and turns.
Yeah.
And the twists just weren't very interesting. You know, Katie and Julie have been having an affair and she's pregnant. Like, all right, Emma's the stalker. Duh. Ian was smuggling dope with the owner. Like, Holes had better plot twists than this, you know?
Well,
And
I
we
think
did
if you're
Holes
a
in our first
good
one.
reader, you'll pick those things up. But when I'm just like out here, just not able to comprehend these things and not see through, then, you know, I think that's the big difference.
Well, I also think there's not enough credit given to how hard it is to manage twists in book form.
Yeah, it's
So
tough.
you're obviously listening to it, which I think is a little bit different. But I mean, the author in this format, the author needs to give hints ahead of time so that
Mhm.
you could have potentially figured it out. You know, you can't be the twist at the end that you're like, wait, where did that come from? You have to be
Yeah.
like, oh shit. Like, yeah, right. This makes a lot of sense from what they said earlier. But with the ability to like read closely and reread passages if you needed to, or if you like felt like, you know, even like the paragraph before, you're like, wait, something was said, you can kind of reread that. It's
Mhm.
hard to slip these kind of things past the reader.
Yeah.
So I totally understand, like
So
it's
audiobook's probably a
harder.
little bit different. Yeah.
Or just in a movie. I think that if this
Yeah.
came out in a movie, there's a lot more going on visually. There's a
Yeah.
lot more, and there's like not opportunities to go back unless you're a psychopath who like pauses and rewinds things, which you should never do if you're watching something for the first time. Rewatches, fine.
Yeah.
But so I understand the format makes it hard, but I mean, there's a precedent of lots of books that were able to do these twists and turns and do it successfully that I just didn't really love this one in particular. You know, I thought the setting, I thought the writing was good, and I thought the drinks especially were very well curated. So cool. Well, what else? Question for you personally. What else have you been consuming? You know, you finished this book a little bit early, so what else? What else have you been either reading or watching? What other kind of media you've been taking in?
I just watched that Denzel and Remy
Oh,
Malik movie last night.
yeah.
Not great. Not a great
Oh,
movie.
that's
Denzel usually can carry any movie, and then they have two good
yeah.
actors. Remy Malik, I think, didn't nobody told him he's not supposed to be playing Freddie Mercury. He has like the weirdest fucking look on his face the whole time.
Yeah, that's just kind of Remy Malik in general. If you watched
Yeah.
Mr. Robot,
Well, he only plays the out or the misfit well. And he was playing
yeah.
like a lead detective. So it's like
Okay, so pass for you.
big pass. Big time pass. Yeah. It's pretty boring too.
I've been watching some Tony Scott movies, which I didn't even realize was Ridley Scott's brother. So most recently, Spy Games, Brad
Oh, I
Pitt,
just watched that.
Robert
Yeah.
Redford.
That's a good one. That's a really good rewatchable
Yeah,
movie.
really, really good movie. I enjoyed it
Yeah.
thoroughly. So I saw that, and then as I talked about earlier, the last time I cried a couple days ago, in and of itself on Hulu, I would suggest everyone check that out. It was actually recommended to me by one of our Instagram followers. Amazing. It was just really something special, different but special.
Oh, by the way, Tony Scott, he did I just saw the Will Smith movie there he did. We watched that. What's that one
Enemy of the
called?
State.
Yeah, Enemy of State. Another great rewatchable movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Great movie.
He's got what those movies where
Yeah.
I think I'm not huge on directors or something like that, obviously,
Yeah.
but if you started watching something, you'd be like, "Oh, this is a Tony Scott movie." It's very
Although
obvious that it's a Tony Scott movie.
Unstoppable was one of my least favorite movies. And that was
Oh,
his
I haven't.
last.
That's
that was
on
his
my
last movie.
list. That's on my list. Oh no.
I mean, I don't want to spoil for you, but the antagonist of that movie, the
Yeah.
sole antagonist is a train. That's the antagonist. So just there's like, we gotta stop this train.
I mean,
That's
it sounds.
It's so
It sounds
bad.
unstoppable to me.
It's so, oh my, I was watching, I was like, wait, is there any part of the story? And it's just Denzel being like, this train needs to stop, man. The whole time. I'm like, okay.
All right. Well, I'm still gonna watch it.
Other people liked it, so I don't know what people liked about it. I can't watch that movie ever again. So let's jump into what we're reading next. I believe it's your pick this time, so you want to take it away?
Yeah. Well, you hadn't read any Stephen King, correct?
No, I've not.
Okay. And the only Stephen King I have read was The Stand, which is incredible. Most of the Gunslinger series. I guess the Gunslinger is the first one. It's a Dark Tower series is the actual name of the series. Both great, both different. I think he's mostly known for like horror type books. And we're going to try to stray away from that. And actually, the band that does our intro for us, one of their players there, the bassist, suggested we check out Different Seasons, which is actually a book I was supposed to read in high school, but didn't, and includes several of his novellas, and that being Shawshank Redemption, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, Apt Pupil, The Body, which was made into Stand By Me, and actually one I haven't heard of. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, we're going to jump into that and get into some Stephen King, see what happens with that. I'm actually really excited for it.
Yeah, me too. Hit us up again at Buddy Book Club on Twitter, Buddy Book Club Podcast on IG, Buddy Book Club Podcast at gmail.com for emails.
All right. Well, good chat, buddy. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
Got 'em. Bye now.